Tell our audience out there what Final Summer is about.
Sure. It's set in 1991. So basically it's the final day of camp in 1991 at the summer camp, and this tragedy happens. And so as the counselors are trying to kind of cope with this tragedy, there's a killer that is waiting for them in the woods. And and then it just kind of completely goes sideways from there. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away because it's not streaming yet, but it's expected to be later in the summer, right?
Yeah. So it should be hitting streaming later this summer. So yeah.
Also, it has a somewhat of a Friday the 13th connection. Thom Mathews, who played Tommy Jarvis in Friday the 13th Part 6 Jason Lives, he's in it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's awesome. It was a huge having him in the film. It was really a big thrill actually to work with him. It was a lot of fun.
How did you end up getting connected with him, and how did you end up reaching out to him to be in the film? I'm sure that must have been amazing for you for him to say yes, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it was originally we were going to have Neil Affleck from My Bloody Valentine was going to be in the film. And then just through COVID, because we shot it in August of 2021. And so the pandemic was still pretty, in its heyday. And I think he had to drop out because he was out of Toronto. And so there's a lot of stuff with visa. And then I just kind of looked around and I'm thinking like, who would be kind of fun to have in this film? And I just kept thinking, yeah, I love Thom Mathews. He's great, Return of the Living Dead. And then, of course, playing Tommy Jarvis. I thought that would be really kind of great because I'm a big fan too. And so I think, to go back to a lot of these films that are that were kind of informative for us, all the Fridays. I was a kid in the 80s. I couldn't watch them, but, hearing about them and listening to Roger Ebert, like hate on them on the Siskel and Ebert stuff kind of made me a fan in a way. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the more that the worse the review, the more I wanted to see it.
Right.
So making this film, I know it was a labor of love. And as an indie filmmaker, you do it all, right? You write, direct, shoot. The cinematography is great. I love the drone shots. I love the aesthetic, just the way you gave it that gritty look, but it's still current. I don't know how to explain it. It's people see it, they'll know.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I love like I just go back to Tobe Hooper's Funhouse. I love that kind of. There's a softness to the image that I really like a lot. Like you mentioned, the grind, like looking at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like the original one, like Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw, and just the look of it was great. And so and then to go to Halloween, even with like Dean Cundy shot that one. I love that anamorphic kind of look. And so I wanted to do something that if you saw it, it would feel like a film that you had just never heard about from the 80s. Like, what is Final Summer? I was about to say Final Exam. It's like, what is this film? How come I've never heard about it before? And so, into that side of things, it's like, you can't really do it like a modern film where modern films are like super clinically sharp. It's shot in 8K, looks crazily tack sharp or whatever. And just doesn't have that feel of the grit and that kind of grindhouse feel of the 70s and 80s films. And so I kind of wanted that feel for it. But then also to kind of take the modern side where I want to see in the dark, at night, so like in the original Friday the 13th, man, she's like walking through, it looks like a black box at some points, there's like, I'm like, could you at least throw a light back behind her so you could see something? And so that was kind of part of it. It was also the first time I'd ever shot anamorphic. I shot a lot of spherical before then. And so it was a bit of a learning curve.
Back in 1978, there was a terrible fire here. Some kid left a campfire alone. Winds picked up and it started to grow. The fire spread through the forest, burning everything in its path. They dug into the ground as their last hope. One of the rangers, a man named Warren Copper, started chopping a tree, trying to start a fire line. After the fire passed, all they could find was Warren's charred skeleton. Years later, locals claimed to see this strange figure with a skull for a head, carrying an axe, guarding the woods in the middle of the night. dark as worn copper